So, hello everyone. This is Achieving Justice, and this is a series of interviews my campaign is doing of judicial candidates from throughout Ohio running on the 2020 ballot. And I'm so pleased today to have Lasheyl Stroud. She is a magistrate, actually the lead magistrate in the Franklin County Domestic and Juvenile Relations Court division of the Franklin County Common Pleas Court. And she has some wonderful life experiences that I thought you would be interested in hearing today. So, Lasheyl, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Judge.
So pleased to be here. So you're a magistrate, and explain to people the difference between a magistrate and a judge, because you're running for judge, but you're currently a magistrate.
Yes, that is correct. So yes, I am a magistrate. I've been a magistrate for almost 7 years now. So the main difference between magistrates and judges is that magistrates are appointed and judges are elected. So especially in a county as large as Franklin County, there are too many cases for the judges to handle all of cases. So like in domestic relations and juvenile court, up until 2017, we only had 5 judges. And then in 2017, the legislature added two additional judgeships to our court in particular. One was in 18, and now this is the 7th seat in 2020. But Franklin County is so large, there are too many cases for all of the judges to handle those. So they've appointed magistrates to preside over those cases. So we have courtrooms, we sit on the bench decisions about domestic relations and juvenile matters, and then adopt the decisions of the magistrates. If any of the parties or attorneys have an objection or dislike something that the magistrate has done in a decision, then they have like another layer of appeal where they're able to object for it to go before a judge to see if the judge is going to uphold that decision or send it to the magistrate.
Great. And so do you wear a robe too?
Yes, we do wear robes.
That's impressive. So this judgeship, you're not running against an incumbent judge. This is a brand new judgeship, and you would be the first one to fill this docket, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Wow. And so you've been endorsed by the Franklin County Democratic Party, correct?
Yes,
and
correct.
I think I saw you just received the endorsement of the Central Ohio Building Trades too, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, those union endorsements represent people, and that's always kind of like, I know for me, it just is sort of pleasing to know that you've got a group of people who sort of want to support your campaign and help tell others about your candidacy.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. It does give an opportunity. So one, I love to hear are able to share the word so that the public is aware of who their judges are. Oftentimes, unfortunately, it could come down to name recognition. But it's great when the public gets an opportunity to know who the names are behind that and the experience and why the people are actually running for judge, and to be able to make an informed decision about who they can vote for. So I really love to have the opportunity to screen with the unions, and then know that, like you said, it represents the people behind those groups. I grew up in a union household. My father was very active in the union. So I'm very much aware of what that means and what it represents. So it is exciting when I hear back from the unions.
So I think I remember your dad was a firefighter for like 33 years, and you grew up in Columbus, correct?
Yes, I did. Born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. My father is a retired Columbus firefighter. He was a paramedic with the Columbus Fire Department for the overwhelming majority of his career. Actually spent a lot of time right in Driving Park. He was at Station 15, and I was in high school at Bishop Hartley and would make many trips after school to go by because a lot of the men and women in the fire department became a part of our family, and they still are. My uncles to this day. We spent a lot of holidays together, and a lot of retired firefighters and current firefighters as well were at my kickoff. So yes, they're definitely a part of our family.
Oh, that's exciting. So you have 17 years experience as an attorney. Can you maybe give people just a thumbnail sketch of what your background is?
Yes, absolutely. So I went to The Ohio State University for law school. And the summer between my first and second year of law school, I actually clerked for then Judge Yvette McGee Brown in domestic relations and juvenile court. So I always knew that I was passionate about children and families. It's something that my parents instilled in me when I was young. I was in middle school and my parents said, you need to go to the elementary schools and volunteer to tutor. And I did the same thing in high school. So there's always been a connection with youth and a passion about families and ensuring that families have the necessary resources and the assistance that's needed so that we can really keep that institution intact whenever it's possible in a healthy manner. So clerked for domestic relations and juvenile court, and that just sealed that this was a court that I really wanted to be in once I became a practicing attorney. My first job out of law school was in the Ohio Attorney General's office, and I was assistant attorney general compensation section. And for some people at first, it sounds a little strange, like, how did you end up in workers' comp if you wanted to be in DRJ? But one of my mentors at the time knew that I wanted to get into litigation and shared with me how that would be a great section to work in. And it really was. A lot of my friends right out of law school were unable to have the experiences that I had. So early on in my career, I was able to handle jury trials and bench trials, argue before the Court of Appeals, even argue before the Ohio Supreme Court right out of law school, those first 3.5 years. So I've had that experience. And then at the same time, when I was working at the Attorney General's office, I also worked in domestic relations and juvenile court as a part-time job as a teen court hearing officer in our in our diversion department rather. So I always made sure that even when I was not working full-time for the court, that I had some type of part-time role, either volunteer or a part-time job. So I've been a litigator that entire time, worked for the court, and then I became a staff attorney. And I was able to have that behind the scenes view of what it was like to draft decisions and really see what it was like to manage a docket firsthand from the staff attorney's role. So I did that for 4 years. And then I opened up my own practice so that I could again be in the courtroom and specifically in domestic relations and juvenile court. So when I had my own practice, I represented parents in both domestic relation matters as well as juvenile matters. I represented children, and I was also a guardian ad litem for children in both domestic cases and juvenile cases. And I just have always loved the role of the guardian ad litem. I was actually a CASA guardian ad litem in law school. But I really love the philosophy and the opportunity to give children a voice in the court without them having to endure the trauma of the actual courtroom experience. So I did all of this, and then I've been on the bench as a magistrate for the last 6.5, almost 7 years.
Oh my goodness. And so that's a lot in 17 years. And then, but you have a husband and 2 sons too, right?
Yes. My husband is a principal, a middle school principal, and then we have 2 young sons. But my parents are really helpful. My parents are close by. My husband's parents do not live in Columbus. But now, especially because my father is retired, they help us a lot with the children when it comes to things, just to help us so that we're able to balance and do everything that we do in our professional careers.
That is fantastic. So with COVID-19, I know I just got the chance to see my 5 grandchildren yesterday. But how has COVID-19 impacted your campaign and even your work, really?
Yes. It impacted all of us. Initially, when we started to hear things at work, and we're really looking for guidance as far as, what to do or what would be our court's response. And our judges really stepped in and said that we were going to go into curtailed operations immediately so that they could protect us as their staff as well as the public who come into our court every day. So I believe it was like March 13th. we went into curtailed operations, and we all started to work remotely from home whenever we could. Because I'm in juvenile court, we have a lot of cases that really are essential. So my department ran one courtroom every single day during curtailed operations. And as the lead, I had to develop that schedule. And really share with my staff as well that it was about our health first and foremost, and then about the health of those who come in front of us. So making sure that the public was informed. We immediately went to our social media platforms. Our court put up information on our website so that the public knew that we did not want them risking their own health to come to court, but made sure that they were aware how we were handling hearings. And then our court was able to receive the grant from the Ohio Supreme Court so that we could have Zoom licenses. And we started doing Zoom hearings throughout this time. In the beginning, to be honest, it was a lot to balance, having children at home, and then both my husband and I starting to work 100% the first couple of weeks from home, since I was still rotating in and out of court periodically. And then we were unable to rely on my parents. So initially we just had to figure things out, and there was a lot of late nights up doing emails and out and coming up with plans and early mornings. But then I had to find balance so that I could make sure I had that self-care to be able to be my best self in all of those areas. So by this point, we feel like we've kind of gotten the hang of it and what it looks like. And our court, even though we're no longer in curtailed operations, we have about half of the staff in our department, half of the magistrates that are still working remotely, because we're able to handle more hearings remote as opposed to when we're at the court. So our juvenile court is one of the busiest courts in the state. And oftentimes on the 5th floor, people talk about the sheer number of people on our floor.
I've seen it.
Yes. So we knew coming back that things could not look the way that none of us are ever going to return to what we knew as normal. But we knew that the 5th floor could not look like that. So we've gone to staggered dockets to where if it's an in-person hearing, we only have one case every hour. But whenever we do Zoom hearings, we can schedule more cases. So half of the magistrates, it's just been more efficient for us and a better use of time for us to use those Zoom accounts and take advantage of that. So today I had a remote docket and I've been able to hear 16 cases. I did 8 this morning, I'll do 8 more this afternoon. But if I were in person, I could only do 4 cases. So it's been really helpful to the public so that they and have their cases heard. And everyone has adjusted really quickly to the virtual hearing option. So,
that's
so,
so. And the other thing I knew that you were involved with and actually kind of spearheaded is a human trafficking, I guess you would say docket or specialized docket that has actually been an example for the rest of the state. Can you help people understand what's involved in that?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a dedicated docket. It's called Empowerment, and that's our Empowerment dedicated docket with youth who are victims of human trafficking right here in Franklin County. So Judge Gill is the judge who's over the dedicated docket, and then Magistrate Sanchez and I preside over the cases. So the docket started back in May of 2014. And it was just one afternoon, Thursday afternoons, where there would be cases where youth either it was directly related to their offense that brought them to court, or there was some type of nexus between the two to where the case that was filed was related to their victimization. And we have partners that provide those resources and treatment options to ensure that the youth have treatment so that they can flee from that lifestyle. After we had the docket, within like 5 months, the cases were consistently going well past 5 o'clock. So I had just started the court. It was like my 2nd year, and I've always been one to want to jump in and help out. So I said, sure, I'll help out, knowing at that point what I was getting myself into. But I walked into the courtroom and I saw so many young girls and even a couple of boys who were on my regular docket And I knew immediately that it was where I wanted to be. And we've done some great things with the Empowerment Court to get the entire court involved. So for example, some of the youth on our docket are pregnant, or they have children that are infants. And for some of them, they feel like the only way that they can provide basic needs for their children or their unborn is to revert back to that lifestyle. And so I was able to work with our court, and we started a drive to where all of the employees could donate things to the empowerment docket. So they were donating diapers and wipes and gently used items. And we collected all of those things for the youth on our docket, so that when they come to court and we see that they're pregnant, or we know that they have a young child, we just freely give. They don't need to ask us for anything. We don't ask them, like, do you need any diapers? We just give it, because they will need diapers. If not today, you will. And the same with bottles and formulas and wipes. So that's one of the things that we do, just try to be a model, because for some of these youth, we're the first adults that they have encountered that have given to them without expecting anything in return. As a demonstration, so that they see that we really do care for them, and trying to make sure that we model appropriate behaviors at all times, so that they know we really do care about them as a person, first and foremost. And we've had a lot of the youth to come back to court well after they've graduated from our program, and come back to thank us and share with us how they're doing. And they might bring their child down to court just to come and say hi. We've also had opportunities to travel around the state to share with other counties in Ohio about what we're doing, in case that they want to create a similar program in their court, and been able to travel to national conferences as well, and to share, both the good and the bad that comes along with having dedicated docket, in hopes that our experience can help other courts avoid some of the pitfalls that we faced.
Sure. So I know that's amazing. That's just amazing. I was getting chills when I was hearing about how the employees of the court are donating items, and the court's actually nurturing and caring for the community. It's great. So this is actually a certified docket from the Ohio Supreme Court, correct?
We're not a specialty docket yet. We've put a lot of thought into whether we stay a dedicated docket versus a specialty docket. So there's some things that we're able to do as a dedicated docket that we would not be able to do as a specialty docket, and vice versa. So like for the staffings, for instance, we juvenile, as the magistrates, do not participate in the staffings, since we're not a specialized docket. So our leadership from Judge Gill has really been helpful in that regard. So we do have an application pending with the Supreme Court, but we've really toiled with that, if we should remain a dedicated docket versus being a specialized court.
Sure. Because I know early on in 2004, I had started the drug court in Common Pleas Court in the General Division, which is still it's called the TIES program there today. But I noticed since that time, the Supreme Court has really institutionalized these specialized dockets. And it's exciting for me to see that this model, because we always hear a lot about human trafficking, but we may not understand it in a real life sense. But this model is actually being used as a sort of a template for other courts in the state.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So you're so busy, and I was just curious, do you have time for hobbies?
Yes, I do have time for hobbies, and I try to use my hobbies as my self-care time to make sure that I do things that I'm passionate about. So I enjoy being with other women. I'm all about women's empowerment. So any opportunity, whether I'm invited as a speaker to come in and go in and share my story related to the law or life. I'm a breast cancer survivor as well. So I get invited to a lot of women's empowerment events to share my story of being a breast cancer survivor. So I enjoy doing that. I love reading. And spending time with our sons. They're still young, they're 6 and 10. So I enjoy as much as possible. Those are just a few of my hobbies.
That's wonderful. Well, is there anything that you think the voters should know that I've not been able to cover in this short interview today?
Um, let's see. My goal is to work hard so that all of Franklin County will stand proud with Stroud when it's time to go and vote. Knowing that to stand proud with Stroud, that you would get someone, if elected, on the bench who understands. Like I said, I'm from Franklin County, so I understand the very community that we have, someone who places an emphasis on equal access to the court, ensuring that all of the decisions that come from the bench are fair and impartial and allowing everyone an opportunity to be heard. So I just like to share my story and want voters to know that I really do understand the work of our court, as well as understand the issues that are important to them, and that I will make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be heard, and that the law is applied in a fair and impartial manner. So I just appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. I enjoy what you're doing.
Oh, I'm the lucky one. I get to hear these wonderful stories and then share them all around the state. And I think, in times like these, when it's been so tough, I think that it helps bring everybody closer together here in Ohio. So thank you so much for joining me today, Lasheyl. And I wish you the very best in the election, which will be here before we know it. So.
Thank you, Judge. I greatly appreciate your time and wish you and your family the best as well. You all take care and stay safe.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye now.
Bye.